Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. When I was 10, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, and the big hallmarks of my disorder were obsessions with thoughts, recurring thoughts, intrusive thoughts, thoughts about guilt, about things that I had done, thoughts of self-harm, all sorts of thoughts that I could not control that I had constantly over and over again. And through some therapy, things got better, and then they got worse again, and I had trouble finding ways to deal with these thoughts and to try to calm my mind. That's probably part of the reason that I turned to alcohol and drugs a little bit later in life, because those chemicals did help me find some relief from this constant thinking. But another way to explore that, in a way that I wish had been introduced to me earlier in life, is through mindfulness meditation. And you hear a lot about mindfulness these days. It's really hard to find a good, solid, working definition of mindfulness. One of the ones that I found was a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations, used as a therapeutic technique. But mindfulness is something that's been taught for centuries as a core tenet of Buddhism, and author Mark Epstein talks about that in Going to Pieces Without Falling Apart. If you are interested in mindfulness meditation as part of your recovery practice, I would encourage you to look into the Refuge Recovery program. It's a Buddhism-based recovery program that utilizes meditation as a key component to the healing process that people need to go through in order to recover from alcoholism, addiction, substance use disorders. So in the book that I was reading this morning, he talks about the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and starts with the first one, which is mindfulness of the body. And he says, first and foremost comes mindfulness of the body, in which the direct physical sensations of breathing and bodily experience are made the objects of meditations. He goes on to say, the mind's inevitable tendency to pull itself away from the body. Mindfulness of the body is a lesson in how much time we spend in obsessive and repetitive thought. When you're practicing mindfulness meditation, and I started, full disclosure, I am no expert in mindfulness meditation. I have not been officially trained in mindfulness meditation. My experience, I would consider my experience in mindfulness meditation to be very limited, very amateur, if you could categorize it like that. That being said, I practice it every day. And one of the ways that I learned how to practice it was through an app called Headspace, which I've found has been a very helpful app in helping to train in some basic techniques for mindfulness meditation. And one of the techniques that you practice is this first level of mindfulness meditation, the mindfulness of the body, where you really are focused on the sensation of the breath, and you try to direct your focus to what does it feel like when I'm breathing in and breathing out, and looking at the things like the temperature and how it feels when the breath goes in through your nose and out through your mouth, and the rising of the chest, the falling of the chest. And you really try to focus on this. And I was amazed for the first time I did it, how difficult that was. I would 1 second be focused on my breathing, and The next thing I knew, I was thinking about something entirely different. My mind had wandered into something else. And the reason that that's important is twofold. One, it created awareness in me that I have this wandering mind that just kind of goes around on its own, thinking whatever it's thinking without the ability to really focus in on what I'm doing. I'm kind of on autopilot a lot of times, is what that made me realize. And then two, it made me realize that if I did some kind of daily practice around this, then I might be able to get better at having a little bit more focus. And that's extremely important, because when you practice this kind of mindfulness meditation, your awareness of what you're feeling and what you're thinking starts to increase. And that's really important for those of us in recovery. If I'm not aware of what I'm feeling, if I'm not aware of what I'm thinking, then I can find myself in some pretty bad mental spots. So I really liked that aspect of mindfulness meditation. And what he's describing here is what he says is that these are the four foundations of mindfulness based on Buddhist teachings. And so the first foundation is mindfulness of the body. He talks about the second foundation as mindfulness of feelings, which involves meditation on the pleasant and unpleasant aspects of bodily experience. Because mindfulness of feelings involves the careful attention to the flow of pleasant and unpleasant sensation in the body, there is none of the usual picking and choosing that otherwise colors our experience. This created a very different relationship with my internal world than the one I was used to. My chronic tendency was to shrink from the unpleasant and reach for the pleasant. Mindfulness of feelings encouraged a dispassionate acceptance of both. I think that's really important, because a lot of times in our addiction, our behavior is motivated by trying to pick and choose what we do and don't feel. So we want to feel good, we reach for the drugs. We feel bad and want to not feel that way, we reach for the drink. We try to use these chemicals that we introduce to our bodies in order to control the way we feel. Mindfulness meditation can teach acceptance of the way that we feel. And as a result of that acceptance, the way we feel often will change. And that's the interesting thing about mindfulness meditation. And so there are two more levels to mindfulness meditation that I'll talk about tomorrow once I read that section of the book. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how these can be used as tools. I really like and again, I am no way an expert in mindfulness meditation, and if you want to explore this further, Refuge Recovery is a great place to explore how to meditate and to practice that with other people. That being said, I feel like mindfulness meditation has given me the opportunity to become more aware of the way that I think, the way that I feel things, and the way that I hold my feelings. Even small things like realizing when I'm holding tension in my body makes a difference for me to recognize that, so I can shift that and make some changes. And that self-awareness is an important part of recovery, because in my active addiction, my self-awareness, whether it was of my body, of my mind, it wasn't there. So much of the time I was on autopilot and just doing whatever I needed to do to feel the least pain. And mindfulness meditation helps me to break out of that pattern and really become more aware of the emotions and the feelings that I'm having, so that instead of just reacting to pain, I can choose what to do next based on the values that I think are important. And that's really the path that I want to be walking down in recovery. That's it for today. I'll be back here tomorrow with more. Have a good one.